And it's recording. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Wrestling Classic. Justin here again with another casual conversation with the Classic. I'm already messing up and we're 2 seconds in. I got a buttload of guests with me today. Yeah, I said buttload. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to be talking about stuff. This is, once again, it's a casual conversation. So, yeah, I have questions that I'm going to ask you guys and whatnot. But otherwise, we're just going to talk, man. It's like going into, like RJ said earlier, a deli and just getting at a table and shooting the shit, guys. How you all doing? Introduce yourselves.
Who's having formal conversations right now? Who's wearing a black tie on their webcam?
Yeah.
We need to have all conversations are casual now.
Please tell me where you were born.
On the bottom.
Right.
I literally have a blanket here. I'm in my pajamas. I just threw on a Ric Flair shirt to kind of make it theme worthy.
I got fully dressed. What I have like nice pants on. I mean,
I'm dressed. I'm wearing my Cecily Tyson Roots of Fight shirt.
Roots of Fight. Shout out to them. I'm wearing a toque because my hair is too long, and it is a toque, not a beanie. And my beard's going long, but you know, we're just
From what I understand, a beanie is a hat that has a propeller on top.
I guess so. No, that's what I would think of a beanie when I think of a beanie. Well, I did once upon a time think they were different though, a toque and a beanie. I thought they were two completely different things until I just realized Americans said beanie, and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, what are the hats with the flaps?
What hats with the bucket hat?
Like where they cover your ears. Like I have a Sherpa hat like that somewhere.
Is that called
what's the Sherpa with the shearling underneath with the flaps that come down with the tie? What's that?
I believe they're called flappers. I've always called them
flappers. I know flappers to be something very different, but
not like the 1920 flappers. What are you guys talking about? What flappers are you talking about, AJ?
You said buttload, so I'm going to stick with that kind of.
No. I want to hear it. Might as well just say it, and then we'll move forward with the introductions after that. What is a flapper?
When you say flappers, you're referring to labiaplasty, but that's a story for another day.
Okay, we are going to move on. We'll start the introductions. AJ,
why are we moving on?
AJ, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi, I'm AJ. I have an Instagram.
Who are you? Lady Kane. She's done stuff.
Some people know me as Lady Kane, but you now may know a different actual wrestler as that name, and that's
who totally stole it from you, by the way. I'll say it. And I like Tegan. Shout out to Tegan.
I wore a spandex cosplay once. It doesn't mean I deserve that name. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
And maybe years from now, you'll cosplay as a very inefficient mayor.
The bald cap, and he's not bald. Yeah, that's it. Oh, God,
People might also recognize you because me and you go live on my Instagram like 99% of the time. You're like my co-host on my live streams like majority of the time. So that's AJ. Nug, please introduce yourself.
As an Instagram live streamer, yes.
Yeah, famously known as an Instagram live streamer. There you go. Nug, your turn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nug Nahrgang. How are you? I'm fine. I'm one of the hosts of Aftermath on Sportsnet in Canada. And currently, due to our, I'm trying to decide which one of them I like so much. Due to this unprecedented time, we are doing our show live on YouTube on Fridays, and we record a little bit of the show to be parsed out during the week. But other than that, I'm holed up in my home, staying safe and not going outside.
RJ?
Yeah, first of all, I love how this is it's a casual conversation, but let's all formally introduce.
I know. I was thinking to myself, like, yo, this feels like, you know, when you do like a group project at school back in the day. It's like, okay, you're next. Hi, my name's Justin.
I would like to supplement AJ's introduction by saying that her Instagram has wonderful photos and shades of a beige truck she owns.
It's a cool truck. It's
very nice. I think it's very nice, and she makes masks and looks like she does stuff, which fills me with insecurity and guilt because I don't do anything. My name is RJ. I pretty much do this, what you're watching with this pull-in shower curtain behind me is what I do now. I'm streaming, I'm online, and I vent my frustrations, and people hear me, but I don't think they respect or appreciate it.
Sounds about right. You're next, Chris.
I appreciate it.
My name is Chris, and I won a contest to be here. I wrote an essay, and it was well received.
It was very well received.
We should all have Price's Right name tags right now.
We could have had a lot more fun with this. I don't know, but maybe again.
I'm having a great time.
I actually took the notes for this group project, so I didn't get involved with the presentation. But I'm Magnum CK. I used to be kind of over in Cleveland and Toronto sometimes, and I have a new documentary. That's probably why I'm here.
And it was on YouTube, and I watched it yesterday. Let's just quickly. I want to talk about the documentary though, really quickly. Though it was really good. But I have a question for you. Like, I don't know. I watch things, and I'm always trying to figure out what the moral of the story is. And I got like two. So I got one from your story, and like, you know, starting in wrestling, you know, being a big fan, always wanted to do it since you were a kid, starting to do it, taking that break because and then coming back and then really finding yourself, only for it to, you know, be taken away from you due to injuries and whatnot. But like initially, my thought process when it comes to your side of the story was, you know, like just go after what you dream, and like even if you don't succeed at, like the journey and everything about it is great, and you had a great time doing it. On the other hand, though, when I watched the parts with Nug and RJ City, I got a whole different story. That was my point. Like, yours was like the genuine, sweet, like, you know, the true story that, you know, would inspire people. Like, just go do it. Like, you know, like you know, like it got cut short for you, but there's still life after wrestling. You're happy with what you did, and we'll talk all about that. But then I watched these two guys. Yeah. And I got this whole different vibe of like them trying to explain what wrestling is, but also trying to like it was a different story though. Like comedy wrestling, what comedy wrestling means, and what this place is, and what it means to be a wrestler, and the life of a wrestler. Which is the reason why I would recommend a lot of people to watch this documentary if you haven't yet. It's on YouTube because it has a little bit of everything. There was an inspiring story, but there's also this like other part of it that I was sitting there like, what? Like, it
seemed to be an argument for what wrestling could be when I watched.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, on their end, that's a good way to put it. On their end, that's why I brought you here, AJ, because I was like, what would I call it? It was like an argument of how people should perceive wrestling coming from RJ and Nug, and then the story of Magnum CK. Go on.
Well, first of all, it's called Magnum's Opus, in case anybody wants to know what we're talking about. But to put a finer point on what you're saying, I think you're right when it comes to RJ and Nug, and we happen to agree on what wrestling is. But I think on my story, the real lesson is never try, never fail, right? Just never try.
That doesn't sound inspiring.
The lesson is don't try.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally
right. Don't listen to
right.
your teacher when you write a paper. Just don't do it. Don't base your life off of it.
I think you're totally right, though. I think I wanted the movie to feel a lot like I feel wrestling should be, which is some serious, some funny, and some interesting, and some whatever else. So I wanted it to be a variety show, just like wrestling is. And Nug and RJ summed it up perfectly. I wish I could have put their whole 25 minutes just in a row in the whole movie.
You guys found ways to continue to make it funny and stuff.
RJ clicking after a horse there at the stockyard. That's all it was. It was just RJ kept trying to call over a horse.
Like
that never came. But no,
we were in a barn, and I'm wearing beige pants. Two parts of the equation.
That was the best part for me. That was great.
There was a point where you came up in your underwear, and it was just like so random.
That's a true, like, that was the only part that I was in that was essentially documented. Like in a sense, me and Nug aren't really in the documentary. We're more of like a Greek chorus.
Yeah.
We're kind of, yes. But the only thing that's documented that I did, because I had no recollection of doing it, was walking up to Magnum in my underwear that I wear under my wrestling underwear.
Oh no, I could tell. I'm like, he definitely doesn't wrestle on that one.
No. Telling you something about Jerry Lewis, and what that could have been could be 100 different things. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I do remember. I don't know if you wanted to remain a mystery, but I do remember what it was.
No, let's hear it. What was it?
Well, so I'm standing there, and they're getting B-roll, and I'm just kind of going over my match, not paying attention. And he walks up, and he's like, I heard this story about Jerry Lewis. And it says that they invited him down for dinner, and he was doing a ceremony or an event, and he had his tuxedo pants, but he wouldn't sit down once he put his tuxedo pants on, so he wouldn't come down for dinner. He ate dinner up in his hotel, but he hung his pants over the rail, and he just sat and ate in his underwear.
Yeah, it's a pretty intriguing story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And was that just a random story, or like where did that come from?
Why I didn't have my pants on.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Were hanging over the rail.
That makes sense.
For his match later.
It also sums up our relationship perfectly, because I think the first time I ever met RJ, I had a shirt with a Glenn Ross picture on it. And he ran up to me and was like, "You call yourself a salesman, you son of a bitch?"
That's perfect. That's perfect. So how did you guys all meet, you three? Like, how did you guys all meet each other?
Greektown. I think it was in Greektown Wrestling in Toronto, where I am the general manager of Greektown Wrestling, and we had a show booked. I think you came up. I think Magnum came up with Jock Sampson as part of the Mega Plowers, and then RJ was on the bill. I don't even know who you were, but I remember it was at the Old Legion, and immediately the four of us instantly hit it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always an Old Legion. I don't think anyone's opening Legions.
No, they're kind of done.
Yeah,
they peaked.
I mean, that's a perfect niche for you to fill right now.
What, the new Legion? Come on with me.
The new Legion.
We'll go raise a glass and do some karaoke.
So what I also really enjoyed from the documentary, though, was there was that conversation when you guys were, I guess, calling over the horse, and you were talking about comedy wrestling and the perception of comedy wrestling. And it is true, as being who I am, the Wrestling Classic on Instagram that has to deal with a bunch of wrestling fans on a regular basis in my comment section. I see that happen all the time where, and I want to address this, and I want you guys' thoughts on it, because I think people are going to be it's something that's always a debate. There is that part of the fan base that still thinks professional wrestling is like really real. Like they're trying to protect kayfabe.
God love them.
The death of them.
They're the absolute best.
And there are those people who want to compare it to professional sports. Like, oh, like, this would never happen. Like the logic here, like, and then there's people that would want to compare it to theater. But no one finds that middle ground to realize that wrestling is just like its own enigma on its own, standalone by itself. Like, how do you guys deal with that being within the industry? Like, with dealing with fans in person, being wrestlers, like how do you guys just talk about this stuff? Like, how do you explain it to them? How would you explain it to them? What is wrestling to you?
Well, I do think wrestling isn't in its own world. It is theater. It's just horribly misunderstood and not sold very well. It's theater sold as sport, which is really confusing. Like they used to sell Roller Jam on TNN.
Yeah.
It's just very confusing. What do I say to those people? Nothing. I go, what is wrong with you? What do you understand? I guess the point about comedy wrestling is that really all wrestling is comedy wrestling. And look behind Nug. None of that is serious or respectable.
None of this is serious stuff.
Something there that's like, oh, yeah, I respect that. It's just ridiculous. It's all
yeah.
I mean, as much as someone can respect their childhood, which we all should, so I would say there's an argument there for to be respected.
Sure,
but yes, it is quite silly.
Stuff that I liked when I was a kid, I thought it was the best and it was real and these guys were amazing. And now I look at it and go, oh, those guys were just having a good time being ridiculous on TV. And I think when a bunch of my friends grew out of wrestling because they're like, oh, it's fake, it's stupid. And I think some part of my brain clicked and went, well, they put a lot of work into making it look as real as they can. And I started to really appreciate the variety show that it is. There's hardcore wrestling for guys who want to see blood and guts. There's technical wrestling for people who want to see the sport part of it. There's comedy for people who want the entertainment. There's soap opera. There's all sorts of different stuff. But to be so single-minded about it that you can't appreciate all the parts of it makes no sense to me. Yeah, there are people who still think it's 100% real. And when they come up to me and they think because I'm on TV that I'm employed by WWE for some unknown reason, I go, oh, well, you know what? I'll take it up at the next meeting and I'll let them know your suggestion and we'll see how it goes. But I'm not in any meetings. I'm just an actor who's on a television show talking about wrestling, turns out I like it. So I have some opinion.
That's a really good point.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I do a lot of seminars, and a lot. AIW brings me in a lot to do promo and character seminars, and the first thing I tell everyone is, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but you guys are actors. This is acting. And I kind of stumbled upon this thought the other day where I was like, what is it about older wrestling that to me used to be better, like in the 80s and stuff, and not even in some of the 90s? And it's because they were all acting, but they were acting in the role of a professional athlete, right? Like Ric Flair was playing the role of a fake professional athlete, but now a lot of guys are playing the role of a pro wrestler. So they inherently just start taking it far too seriously, and then the plot gets kind of lost.
So taking wrestling seriously is the real problem, is what we've
no, because I think about the same in acting. I take my craft, if I can be a douchebag, very seriously. Like I've done 35 plays and musicals. I mean, I take that seriously. I don't take myself seriously, right? Yeah. So it's like I learned all the fundamentals, and I was just talking a while back with Colt Cabana about this, because he's like, these guys want to do the razzle dazzle, but they don't learn the fundamentals. So I had to do the 1,000 Hindu squats and learn how to work. And then it's like, then I can hop in there with RJ and we can break all the rules. Like when I started doing improv, the first thing that they told me was like, you don't start out as the Harlem Globetrotters, right? Like they had to learn how to play basketball first, right? So you have to learn how to dribble and shoot, and then you can do all that Meadowlark Lemon bullshit.
That's fair. Does having an acting background or an improv background, does that help with wrestling?
Yes, of course.
100%.
That was one of the most basic, straightforward questions ever. I'm just shooting here. I'm just trying to go off the
just went yes.
I'm like, okay, sweet. But go ahead. What?
Taking it seriously. It's not a question of taking it seriously or not, because I don't think I've ever taken anything more seriously in my life. I think the real comment is that kayfabe is wrong.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Because going back to my main question, it's not really, I asked what you guys think from within the industry, but once again, my point was I think sometimes fans do take it too seriously to a different level, and I think that's where there sometimes is a problem. Because for me, similar to Nug's story, when this was the best part from what he said was, there was a point where a lot of my friends watched wrestling when I was younger. They all tuned in, and then they all tuned out. And they're like, Justin, why do you still watch that thing? It's fake. It's fake. It's not real. Like UFC blew up when I was right after my teenage years and middle of my teenage years, and everyone went to UFC, and I was still watching, Evolution and whatnot going on TV. And everyone's like, why do you watch it still? It's fake. It's fake. And I'm like, I've learned to appreciate it a different way now. I don't see it as this athletic sport. Like they're gonna go like a competitive sport, like I used to watch hockey growing up or whatnot. But I'm like, I kind of appreciate what they do now. Now that I kind of know what is going on, I kind of like it more, because it seems like there's a lot more work and a lot more effort put into this to make us believe it. I truly strongly believe in that whole old school thing of suspend your disbelief. I love that shit. Like, man, that's why I watch movies and listen to music. That's why I watch Willy Wonka and want to believe there's a chocolate factory somewhere.
That's you suspending your disbelief.
Yeah.
That's not me going into the streets and pretending that Willy Wonka is real.
No, 100%. Yeah. And that's I see what you're saying, because there are wrestling fans that think like that.
Yeah, no, not just the fans, but like I think RJ is also talking about with the performers themselves, right? So it's like you'll see certain guys, and I see this a lot in the US, where they'll go out for intermission and they'll be really rude and mean to everyone because they're a bad guy. And it's like, listen, I get it. Like, maybe don't set up your table next to your opponent. Like, let's not totally piss on it. But like a year ago, I played Gaston in a musical, right? And every night there were like 500 children in the audience, and every night they asked us all to go downstairs and say hi and take pictures of all the kids. Can you imagine if I'm down there kayfabing kids and like shoving them over and stuff? I'm like, get out of the way, young lad.
Yeah, it's a weird.
I mean, you could work at Disney if you had that mindset, but
well, do they do that at Disney? Do they walk around and treat you like trash if you're a villain? Like if you ran into Jafar at Disneyland, is he gonna try to like kidnap my wife or something? I don't have a wife. I'm not even married. But like
one of the players, but
I don't know.
Darth Vader's still generally pretty mean. But I think
they hit me with a lightsaber. Like I don't understand. My little cousin smacked me.
At Disney, and you see 3 women sitting on a picnic bench, you have to try to lift up the picnic bench.
That would be great.
That's in the contract. That is in the contract.
Yeah. So, but I do once again, like I do think there's a fine line between wrestling fans right now, where a lot of them do still want to believe it's real, and a lot of them don't, and it creates the weirdest arguments in my comment section, like the most odd complicated arguments sometimes that I try to get at, and it's like I don't know where, as a fan, because I'm not in the industry whatsoever. So as a fan, like I have a duty to kind of talk to my followers and entertain their comments. But as a fan, like I also can't tell them what is what because I don't know what I'm going to ruin here.
There is this weird moment. We're in a weird moment where a few years ago, Vince McMahon came out and kind of opened the curtain and was like, "This, what we do is entertainment." And I think a lot of fans took that as, you're also, come on back here, you're in behind the curtain with us. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not behind the curtain with them. You might understand what's going on, but you don't know what's going on. You don't know why people are signed to contracts. You don't know how long the contracts are. You might think you know a lot of this information, or why so-and-so's getting a push, or they shouldn't push him, even knowing the word push. Who cares? I'm not impressed by you thinking you're behind the curtain when you're not. You've been let behind the curtain by Vince McMahon, but there's a whole other curtain that you're not behind, man. There's many, many curtains. And you might know a little bit of what's going on, but you don't know everything. So I think the problem is a lot of people act like they already know everything.
Well, do you think that would have started kind of with, like, I would, like, from my knowledge, I think it kind of started with like the Wrestling Observer newsletter, where people were always trying to figure out what's going on. And
now, history lesson.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sweet, I'm ready.
The first fixed match on record, generally speaking, was 1925, and 5 years later, the New York Times didn't want to publish results of wrestling matches because they knew it was fixed. So the real issue is a lot of people have known for a very long time. And this small segment called the Wrestling Bubble is just horribly misinformed, usually by old men named Jim.
He's not wrong.
Oh, goddamn!
You can go look at it online. It's all there. So the question is, why are we in this bizarre mafia that has to swear by it being real?
It's called escapism and mental health, but yeah, I mean,
it is a form of escapism. And then for the people, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, and that is a thing, like, that is a big deal. Like, people have always wanting to know what's happening behind the scenes. Like, they wanted to be a part of it. They felt more part of it if they knew why someone got signed, or using words like push and heel and babyface, which has actually just become normal words now. They don't really mean.
Oh, don't forget storytelling.
Storytelling. Well, this is the difference. I think it's fair to have opinions in like fantasy book and do those things, but I think it's wrong when you start thinking like every single one of your opinions is right and everything else is wrong. Like, you know better because you read it somewhere, or you had a source. Like, what the hell is a source? I don't even know why everyone has a source. But
my sources tell me.
My sources tell me. Like, why? I don't care what your sources say. Like, for me. And
who do we think that source is, though? I would like, who do we, like, the funniest thing we could possibly think that source is? Because I like to imagine who it is and who's DMing them. And
for sure, it's the guy who cleans up the dressing room, and some guy didn't clean up after himself, and this guy's picking up his socks and spit cup and everything, and just goes, "This asshole. Here's this guy. Here's some backstage news about this guy." That's all it is.
It's never happy people. Let me put it that way.
I just feel like
I laughed at that.
I went through a period of time where I would also try to, like, you know, when I was like a teenager, and I would go on like those websites and be like, "Oh, what's happening?" Like, da da. But then I grew up, and as I grew up, and I was like, it kind of ruined wrestling for me. I like to be surprised. I like to watch it, not know who's backstage, or it's reported that this person met with Vince McMahon. Like, I don't give a crap who met with Vince McMahon. Like, just show up on my TV screen, because that's what I liked when I was a younger kid. When I was fortunate enough to grow up during that crazy Monday Night Warrior as a kid, and people were just showing up on Nitro and Raw, and I was like just watching it for what it was, that when I started knowing what was happening back there, it made it less enjoyable for me. So what I see happening a lot of now, and I'm sure you guys see it a lot too, and with Aftermath and the audience of Aftermath, you guys probably get these questions and responses too. People being like, "Well, I already knew that was going to happen. Well, that's so predictable." Well, it's like, yeah, if you're looking for everything and every source and every bit of who's getting signed, who's backstage, yeah, you predicted that was going to happen. Even myself.
Also, you knowing what was going to happen 100% does not make you smarter than anybody else. Yeah. Everyone is supposed to be able to see what's going to happen and then feel satisfied when it does. And then you at home can silently think, "Oh, I knew that. I feel pretty good about that."
Think about, like, some of the best storylines of, like, recently have been the ones, like, we know exactly where it's going, but we're often there waiting. Look at the whole Otis Mandy thing. We all knew where it was going to go, technically, but we were excited for it.
Who didn't know what's going to happen in Beauty and the Beast? I think we all had a pretty clear idea of how it would play out.
I was pretty surprised by that ponytail at the end, though. I wasn't expecting that.
You know what? The Beast turned into
It's a nice surprise.
He looked a lot like Gaston at the end.
Yeah.
He did, oddly. He did.
Yeah.
It was
He's
weird.
like a nice guy.
The moral should be, I'm still going to love you even though you look like a beast. He should have stayed stuck that way. And she's like, it doesn't matter. I love you. It is about looks in the end.
Yeah.
Really.
So how do you guys feel about like, you know, the comments from someone like a Ronda Rousey who's out there saying, you know, wrestling is fake, that fake fighting, this and that, like
I don't.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know her at all, but I would say she's probably just purposely stoking flames and tapping into that whole section of the fan conclave that take it all way too seriously. And those people are never going to be happy because if everyone came out and just said, hey, it's a TV show, they're a bunch of actors, and we rolled credits at the end, they'd be like, oh, it's ridiculous. But then when WWE or someone tries to fool them and say like, oh my God, this crazy real thing happened, they're like, no, it didn't. So I think she's just stoking that flame, right, Nug?
Yeah, and weirdly, she tweeted out something the other day about like when you don't know you're working and it's a work and you're being worked.
the Hogan tweet, the famous Hogan tweet.
Exactly word for word what Hogan tweeted out for everyone.
It was the Hogan tweet, man.
So
That's one of my favorite
that's the
tweets.
big red flag that this might be all a work, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Think what you want.
And also, I just feel like she's done it before. Like she's tagged this, she's poked that fan group that takes it too seriously before, so she knows it works.
What exactly would be wrong with just having a nice, compelling TV product that's not this like Vince Russo-esque, like, oh, it's fake, but we're going to pretend like it's fake on the show and we're working you into a shoot and everything? Like, what would be wrong with just a nice, compelling story with a big, long arc and like a cool match at the end of it? Like, what
You actually would have to have distinct archetypes to do that, and that's lacking in a few different places, which I would love to see. And I think that speaks to what Nug was saying in the documentary about, you know, it's not for everyone. There's different parts that are for different people, which makes a great collective form of entertainment, and what I usually love about a well-rounded wrestling story and promotion. So I think that's really lacking in a lot of places. It's just the same few archetypes, and every other archetype pisses everyone else off.
Yeah, it's just everything's weird. Wrestling's weird.
RJ, write that down.
I will say that one thing was really funny, and I know it's a joke. I'm sure I've heard it before, but you guys said in the documentary too, that whole like, you know, there's never been a successful suicide dive, and I'm like, that's actually so funny.
They've never worked.
Like I legit, I LOL'd watching the documentary, and I'm like, yo. I'm like, what?
I think that might be my favorite part of the movie because Nug's like, and RJ, you've said this before. Every suicide dive has always been unsuccessful, and RJ just goes, "Come on."
No, and as bad as it was, it took me a second. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, as like a wrestling mark. I'm like, no, they usually hit him. I'm like, oh, it's called a suicide dive.
Yeah, you don't call a thing a kamikaze and have a guy walk away from it.
I was like, yeah, I guess no one's actually committed suicide off a suicide dive. That's true. Okay.
Have you tweeted that before? That must have been.
Of course, I've tweeted that, and then I did a thread of Seinfeld material on wrestling.
What?
And one of them was
like what?
There's the diver, and there's also the catcher. It's really a suicide homicide dive.
I will say this: I honestly, like, I went on a deep dive one time through your YouTube channel. Like, I don't know. I find a channel and I go on a deep dive once in a blue moon, and some of your videos on there were just like the ones where you rewrite history, like you're acting like you're there, like how they came up with "suck it."
No, he was there.
Oh, I mean, how you were actually there. I mean, back in those days, and they were.
I thought you said kayfabe was dead. What the fuck?
I don't know. It's a weird line. I told you, it's a fine line. He was there. Those are some of my favorite videos, and obviously, you're making coffee in your underwear. You like the whole one with Stone Cold was hysterical. How was that? How was being Stone Cold? How was he going with it?
It was weird. I got like psyched out in my head immediately upon seeing him. And then we filmed it we taped it in the studio where he films his Broken Skull session. So it felt like I was on camera, even though, I wasn't. And so after the podcast, it was with David Arquette. We're talking for like an hour afterwards, and I was like, listen, because he knew I did it. Because I will also say, does his research all on his own and had a sheet of notes on me, which freaks me the fuck out. And creeping my Instagram and all this shit.
He's a profiler.
Yeah. So I was
he already judged you before you walked in, and you had to deal with that.
100%.
That's basically what it was. Yeah.
It was totally fine.
How surreal to imagine like Steve Austin Googling. He's like, goddamn kid, go to the Google machine. He's drinking coffee in his underwear.
And then I will say it was wonderfully filmed by David Arquette, who had a very steady hand, and he doesn't get credit for that episode. Yeah,
it's nice to see you give him credit.
So I'm curious about that because I know you guys work together. I know David Arquette returned to wrestling. I know his story. He has a documentary on YouTube too, or somewhere. If you guys want to check it out.
Okay, wait, no. Well, that's a decent plug.
It was the effort. Justin did his research.
Well, then plug it then, RJ. Plug. I told you this is the most unprofessional professional interview you're ever going to do.
It's called You Cannot Kill David Arquette, even though time will really tell. It was supposed to premiere at South by Southwest, and then we were supposed to go, and then we were supposed to wrestle afterwards.
And it just never happened?
Canceled. So it's in limbo now, and of course there's a wonderful trailer out of him just ruining his body.
How did you guys get paired up together?
On Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, he followed me, and that was his first mistake.
And then you guys started teaming together. Like, what's the friendship between you two?
The entire story is chronicled on the top of my Twitter page. If you do want to see it in real time, but he followed me and kept tweeting back and forth, and then I got upset with him, and I had his first match back, and I gave him a black eye, and then he told me if I teamed with him, he would get me on a talk show. And I've been teaming with him, and I've yet to be on a talk show. Not unlike, this event here.
Yeah, this is a special kind of event, yeah.
So
and is that still a pinned tweet that we could, if anyone wanted to go see the culmination of that?
Yes, that the whole thing is at the top, collected in a moment, as they say online.
How did you come up with the concept of making coffee in your underwear and just talking to people? What was the thought process there?
I said it as a joke. And then Tommy Dreamer said, you might as well. There's a lot of other people that are doing worse. And I said, well, that's fair. So I did one. It's
a good reason for anything.
I guess
that's why I did this. I just, everyone's doing something. So we're all sitting inside. Here we are having a casual conversation about you making coffee in your underwear.
Yeah, I decided let's just do one. And then I've been doing it every Sunday night for the past 2 years. So here we are. It's a hoot.
Another thing I also want to bring up that's also very random is Nug. I really enjoy it when you go to bookstores because you find the most random, out-of-the-world book titles and book covers, and you show them on your story. Where did that come from?
It's Harlequin romance novels, and they are, first of all, there's a ton of subsections of Harlequin romance. So there's like suspenseful ones and like science fiction-y ghost story ones, and then there's a whole Amish category. There's even NASCAR-based Harlequin romance novels. And so a while ago, I was shooting a thing up in Sudbury, and we were shooting in the doctor's office / library of this small town, and they were giving away boxes of books, and I found the NASCAR one, a Vegas one, like all these subsections, and I brought them all home. And I read them all because I just thought these.
Oh, you actually read those books?
Oh, not the ones I'm posting now.
Oh, okay.
But I read all these Harlequins, and it's all a formula. So if you get hired by Harlequin to write a romance novel, it's a formula, and then you just plunk your own title on the front of it. But even the titles are a formula at this point. There's a whole section that's like the international country person from that country. So like the Italian businessman's secret daughter. It's
so weird.
It's a Mad Lib way to fill out a whole novel and a title. And so when I go into Walmart, that's where they all are. And I just like, guys, it's time. Let's take a look at these. And they're bananas. They make no sense.
I feel like they give you the whole story on the title and the picture of the book.
Yeah, you don't need to read the book.
You need to read. I know what happens now. They literally just describe the
You
synopsis
definitely
in
need
the
to
title.
read those books. My mom and I are both huge fans of them. And if you notice that all of the spines are bent in the same place because the sex scenes, the throbbing, juicy sex scenes are all in the same spot.
You can see the divination of where the sex scenes are on the side of the book.
It's great.
They
So
all
if you
have
just
a
want
formula.
the spark note, if you just want the spark note, just look at the spine, open it right up, and you're good to go.
We're learning a lot about these books, guys. This is a great conversation. I'm really enjoying it.
It's just escapism. It's essentially wrestling. You could probably book.
We're just comparing everything to wrestling now. Everything is wrestling.
Yeah, I mean,
watch a show.
Fabio knows how to fall. That's the deal.
100%.
So Nug, are you now that you've been doing this, are you kind of well versed in the history of these people like Fabio? Because
I was an English major in university, so I've read a lot of books. And I remember I had an English teacher, I want to say my third year university, who he was a Shakespeare guy. He was writing a 200 and some page thesis on one scene from King Lear. He ate, breathed, sleep Shakespeare. And then he said, when I go home, I watch the worst horror movies because it's the furthest thing from Shakespeare I can find. But even in that, I see the stories, I see the archetypes, I see all the shapes of what's happening from Shakespeare. And I remember thinking, oh, that's what I do with wrestling. And I can't get away from it because all I do is see the stories and the characters. I read a book now and I go, oh, this is like when Hogan and Savage got into
Isn't that weird though? Because I compare a lot to wrestling too, but I've always been more of a character storyline guy than I really am about like the in-ring stuff. Like I can watch a really, really good match and I'll think it's a really, really good match, but like 2 weeks down the road, I'll probably forget about it unless I cared about the characters and the story that went into that match. Speaking on today's wrestling, do you think there's just like a lot of really good wrestling, but a very lack of emphasis on the characters and storylines? Because for WWE, for example, there's a few obviously major characters that like I can like if I was sitting there with a friend, right, who like doesn't ever watch wrestling. And they're sitting there like, oh, Justin's watching wrestling, we watch it with him, right? And they're like, oh, who's this guy? Like, if you point out like the Fiend, I can describe who he is to you. You know, if you point out certain people, I'll be like, he's this. But take for example, a few months back, if someone's like, describe babyface Seth Rollins, who is he? And my only description is he's a good wrestler. Like, I don't feel like that's a character or a storyline. Is that a problem you see today, or is that just me?
I find it to be a problem. I mean, I respect the athleticism, but I don't need any more good wrestling. Like if I really want to watch a good wrestling match, like I could watch Austin and Brett or, any Shawn Michaels match.
You enjoyed Austin and Brett because they came in there with such characters and a story that made you care about that match more.
Sure, but my main point is, there's enough good wrestling already. I just want to see like Brian Knobbs fall down by accident, or like the Public Enemy smacking each other with trash can lids, and I'm like, Dean Malenko, I respect it, that's great, but like Public Enemy's coming out next to fall down for real, right?
Yeah, that's what I find really hard for me to sit there and watch like 3 hours of Raw these days, is because I'm like, okay, it's good match after good match after good match after good match, and then like 2 weeks later, none of it matters. I'm like, what happened on that show that was like progressing the stories of the characters really that I'm going to remember from this? Because
the only story that's been progressed at all in the last 5 months is Otis and Mandy.
Yeah. And I'm a big, like, in running my Instagram page, I drop a lot of moments. I drop a lot of moments that people remember. Austin with a beer truck, this happened, that happened. And if I've learned anything, people remember the moments. If I ask someone, what else happened on that Monday Night Raw that Austin came out on the beer truck, they won't tell you the rest of Raw. They don't remember. No one knows what happens on that show.
Well, and it was probably terrible the way the first 3 years of Saturday Night Live had one gem and a bunch of terrible sketches.
Yeah, but I think that that says something though. People remember promos and stories. Like one of the things I loved actually from your documentary, the Magnum Opus, was, dude, you were really good at cutting promos.
Oh, I appreciate
every time you were
that.
cutting a promo, I was like, even if I like for a second went looked at my phone or something and it came to a scene of you cutting a promo again, I was like, oh, okay.
And to be perfectly honest, it's all from acting. I mean, I'm a trained actor, just like everyone else you have on the show today. I mean, I just had a lot of training and how to vary your speech. It's just all technique, and after a while, when you drill the fundamentals of acting, it just happens, So, and I in my promo classes, I just tell people to find that real part within themselves. Like I know that some of the promos are silly, but a lot of them, my favorite ones are the ones that are a little more dramatic. And it's just like you can say the most ridiculous, wild shit, but you have to figure out how to make yourself believe it in the moment, and then you start connecting with people, and that's really
you gotta
all
believe in what you're saying, though, right? Like when you're saying something, you gotta have that conviction. Did you start acting in between your wrestling? Like you took a break in the middle, right? Like you started wrestling, you took a break, and then you came back to wrestling. You still began acting in that middle period, right? When you took that break?
And I started like every actor. I started in high school, and then when I got into wrestling, I didn't have time to act. And then when I got out the first time, I did like 10 years straight or 8 years straight, just like 4 or 5, full productions a year, and film and improv and sketch and whatever I could do. So then when I came back to wrestling a few years later, I literally was in the ring the first time in 2016, after I came back, and I was like, holy shit, it's just a play. Like, oh my God, I can do this. And then I started paying attention to the audience and slowing down and just delivering a performance. And it was
I'm
a lot
guessing
easier.
When it came to that point where you had to make that decision when you got that injury of like, well, I think I got to stop wrestling. It probably helped you a little bit more knowing that you also had this other passion for acting, and there was a life after wrestling for you waiting there once this chapter ended.
One of the best messages I got, I mean, because I got thousands of, I'm not trying to tell the Hulk Hogan version. I got millions of stories and messages, dude. I got hundreds of messages, in all honesty. And one of my favorite ones, it was from RJ, where he's like, this might sound like crude, but I'm not worried about you at all, because I know that you have a million other things that you want to do. And we talked about this because I have friends currently in wrestling who that's all they have. And that's what I was thinking. But then when it goes away, what do you do? Or when it's 20 years later and you don't have a life, and now wrestling's over, well, what the fuck now?
Because I also think it's really cool, because when it's all said and done, when you look back, you're going to be able to be like, oh, I did pretty much almost everything I wanted to do. Like you did the wrestling thing and you've wanted to do that forever. You're doing the acting thing and you want to do that forever. And it's cool that, you're still young and
I'll be acting and directing the rest of my life, I'm sure. But and it probably sounds like bullshit, but it's true. My only goal was to feel personally like I was good at wrestling, and that was because everybody wants a contract, everyone wants to be on WrestleMania or whatever. Yes, no one's going to say no to that, right? But really, toward the end of my run or so whatever, it started to click, and I started to realize, like, wow, I do feel like I did this. I feel like I'm good at this, and it was a lot less painful to leave it.
No, for sure.
So can I have a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so on the topic of these wrestlers when it's over and they don't know what to do, I think that also plays into right now, everyone in wrestling and the world not really knowing what to do. And it makes me think of one of my favorite RJ tweets, which I don't remember what a fan said, but they said something about RJ giving them a boner, I believe, and RJ's response was I believe that was it. And then RJ's response was, thanks, how do I monetize this? And I think
True.
I mean, we can all get hard,
So I'm wondering, like after wrestlers, after it's over, but also right now that it's kind of feels like it's over for everyone, how are we all monetizing this? What are the things you think are going to happen going forward? Or what are the things you guys are doing that are creative that you're having to think outside the box and do to monetize?
Well, it's funny because RJ, what a lot of wrestlers are doing right now in this uncertain time is stuff that RJ's been doing for years. Like RJ for him, it's just a little blip in the road. It's very, for what we were just saying the other day, RJ and I were both like, wrestling is the least important thing either of us do. We have all these other things going on. And then occasionally we're at a wrestling show. I do voice work. I'm an actor and I'm an improviser. I audition for stuff all the time, and I get to work on TV, film, radio, whatever. But then I get to go talk on Sportsnet about wrestling, which is kind of the thing I like to talk about anyway. But then there's wrestling shows which are like, oh, that's fun. I'll do one of those every now and then. But wrestling shows are not my main bread and butter. And so there are a bunch of wrestlers I know who literally have nothing else. Wrestling's the only thing they do. And right now they are struggling, not just monetarily, but also mentally. What do I do when there's no wrestling? It's forcing them to confront the end of their career much earlier than I think any of them had anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, like losing WrestleMania weekend and all that shit, I lost out on a bunch of shit, like professionally and like monetarily, and it's like not cool. And the South by Southwest, like it fucking sucks. However, I'm doing like 8 different things, so I just have to lean into the other stuff. And right now that happens to involve a Paul-in shower curtain, and that's fine. But that's what I got to do. And it's also like really like an identity crisis for some people that they really hitch their wagon to wrestling. It's like that does not define you as a human being, whether you're successful or not. That's a real mistake to do. And the best way to break that is to be able to do a bunch of different things at the same time.
Have you three, now talking to you guys for the last, I don't even know how long we've been on here for now, but for you three,
44 minutes.
Okay, sweet. We got some time still. Have you guys thought about doing something together, or is there something already cooking up, the 3 of you?
Whether it's an action or something?
I mean,
we've got a vaudeville revival coming up. I mean, it was on the books for the fall, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. But yeah, like, I mean, I finally got to go down to Old Wrestling and bump into Magnum, and RJ was there as well. And Old Wrestling is such a fun show. I would.
What is Old Wrestling?
Oh, it's so cool.
It's Marion Fontaine runs it down here in Ohio for the most part, and it's like it's set in the 1920s.
What?
So we all play different characters. Like I played a 1920s gangster, and RJ has my favorite character because before I ever got booked there, I was sending Marion Fontaine messages like every other week of like full breakdowns of character ideas, and I sent all these different drawings and all this stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, man, these are really great, but can you do like an old-timey gangster voice?" And one of the things I had pitched was an actor, and then RJ took it to the next, that when they brought him in, you're a silent movie actor, right?
Yes, RJ Metropolis.
You guys need to send me some clips of this old wrestling if there's actually clips out there. No?
So silent, though.
Yeah.
I want to hear, because you're just like one step away from a transatlantic accent anyways, so that's kind of sad to hear, to be honest. But.
Well, I have a guy holding caption cards for me that says what I'm saying, and then of course it all turns out to be a rude.
Send me some of this. I want to post this on the Wrestling Classic. I just want to see how people react to it. I personally love it already, but it just seems very. I love when people get creative with wrestling. There's so much room for creativity.
He's got an old-timey manager in spats and a beret with the big megaphone. And just as RJ's about to get a huge elbow off the top rope, he'll go, "Cut, stunt double." And then another guy who looks like RJ will come in, and RJ will say, "I'm very hurt. I'm emoting. Lay down here." And RJ will take off, and that guy will take the elbow, and then RJ will roll in and go, "Oh!" Like, it's wonderful.
No, I really need to see that. Why have I never heard of this before? Like, ever. Have you heard of it?
Cross has been on it too. Yeah.
Have you heard of it? You heard of it, AJ? Oh, I don't know where to point. Oh, there it is. This hand. Okay.
Yeah, Matt Cross is the only champion they've ever had.
He's like a world champion for like the past 5,000 days or something. I showed up at one of their shows and they're like, "Hey, you're working the champ tonight." And I was like, "What?" And like, I found myself in that, like when you were RJ, when you were talking about like the Stone Cold thing, when you got in your head, like I built up him as this like fake champion for old wrestling for like 10 years. Then I was like, I'm going 3 falls with the champ. Like, oh my God. And I was like, oh wait, oh God, it's Matt. Like, it's fake.
Fine.
So I guess I'll throw this out there just because I know I have a lot of followers that, like that, that want to, get a part of wrestling, be a part of the wrestling, or become wrestlers, start training or whatnot. There's a lot of people that followed my page before they entered the wrestling industry. Guys like MJF used to follow my page before he became MJF.
His dad used to message you.
Yeah, his dad still messages me. I have a comment of MJF commenting on my posting. I hope you post me one of these days, like you post these other WWE superstars when I'm a WWE superstar. And now he's MJF and he big leagues me. But
he was incredibly wrong in that prediction.
I know. There's a handful of people that have followed my page that I've actually seen go out and like actually become professional wrestlers, which I think is really cool. I've got to build these relationships with them early on in their careers. But that being said, there's still more people that follow this page that would love to become professional wrestlers and enter the industry. 3 of you all having some sort of experience, well, a lot of experience in the wrestling industry. What advice would you give someone that wants to enter the wrestling industry, and what would you let them know if you could let your younger self know before you got into it?
Online therapy is an incredible tool.
Talkspace.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good first stop for everybody.
That's it.
I that actually came up. I was talking about that the other night on one of these I did, and they were like, "Were you afraid?" Because I mentioned therapy, and they're like, "Were you ever afraid to do therapy because you thought maybe it would take away your creative edge?" And I'm like, "I didn't get creative until I got into therapy, and still started getting the roadblocks out of my way and realizing like, oh, that's why I want to put on spandex and cut my forehead. Oh, okay, now I have some ideas, right?" And
which
the
parent
best
was it?
both. It was all three. But the best advice is wrestling is like stand-up comedy, right? So every stand-up when they first start probably is stealing jokes from their favorite comedian, or at the very least sounds exactly like their favorite comedian. So you have to work through that phase until you find your voice, right? And just realize that wrestling is very similar in that vein. If you got to get out there and kind of push yourself and do your time in the comedy cellar so that you can finally get good at it and have something to offer.
Well, and that's funny because I have a lot of people messaging me, I being the general manager of Greektown, and I do some managing of some people every now and then. I manage RJ a couple of times in some various places, but they're like, guys I know from comedy message me and go, "Hey, I want to start managing." I'm like, well, you don't just start managing. You have to, you have to do your 10,000 hours opening. You have to show up at a local event. Introduce yourself, let them know who you are, let them know what you're interested in, and then help out and show them you want to be there and show them you want to learn everything there is to learn. Like I started going to Greektown, but then I hung around, I helped clean up, I did all sorts of stuff. And then when they realized I was an actor, they were like, "Could you be the ring announcer?" And I said, "Sure." And then after a while, I kept having to announce matches that would happen and rule changes, and all of a sudden this match is now Falls Count Anywhere or whatever. And then it became obvious that they needed an authority figure, and I ended up becoming the general manager of Greektown. Now, again, this is an actor playing the part of a general manager, and yes, I get stopped at grocery stores by people going, "Hey, you booked a really good show there at Greektown, and you did a real good job." And I go, "Oh, thank you very much." But I find out who's wrestling when the announcements come out. And then I get thanked by fans for booking such a good card, and I just go, "Oh, you're welcome." But you can't just show up and expect to play the part of a manager or a wrestler. You have to go and you have to know the basics, know the fundamentals, and show them that you want to start at the bottom and work your way up.
That's true. I think that's a big part of it, because you see a lot of guys, even here at the local wrestling companies. I attend a lot of those ECCW shows and ASW shows and whatnot, and you'll see a lot of guys that don't want to put in the work, and they come there and they want to do stuff, and it's just they'll never get the opportunities, and then at the same time they'll be complaining about why they don't get those opportunities. But then you'll see those other guys that are helping, taking the ring apart and taking all the chairs and stacking them in the back of the truck, and they're doing all that stuff. But that's just for the wrestlers out there that are trying to wrestle. Like, participate, be a part of it, don't get a big head. Other than that, you tried to wrestle. Go ahead.
Just a quick. When I was trying to go in and volunteer, I just didn't like shaking that many hands, and it made me think.
Is that an old? Do you guys think that's an old thing, that the whole shaking hands thing?
It's just not very.
Do you think that has run its course?
Yeah, I mean,
right now
it definitely is an old school thing. Like Nug and RJ. Like, I consider us, I mean, maybe I'll find out otherwise now, but after I say it, but I consider us to be friendly and friends, right? So when we see each other, we're like, hey, and hugs and everything. But like this whole thing where I remember even 10 years ago, people would be like, yeah, that guy over there, guy in the corner, he didn't shake hands. It's like, oh, I'm gonna fuck him up, like what? Like, they didn't shake your hand? Like, I don't show up at work in my office and I'm like, hey, brother, how are you? How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Like, I can just be like, hello, everyone. I'm at the show now.
The pageantry of it was just
what
wild
other traditions in wrestling seem to be dated? Because there seems to be a few of them that seem like the whole handshaking thing to me seems a bit dated.
Taking yourself seriously as an alpha male, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It sounds like you're projecting, but okay.
I will say being like on the edge of wrestling as I am, one of the weirdest things for me is having to chase down the guy for your pay at the end of the night. Why are we looking for you? Why are you hiding from us? Give us the money.
That's because I'm on the outside edge too. Like I've had the luxury to go back there and just try to get podcast interviews back in the day and stuff. And the handshake thing was a really big deal. That's why I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna talk to that person at all. Like I still have to go over there and shake their hand. Like I swear they just came out of the washroom and they did not wash their hands. I don't know.
100%. I've seen it happen.
No, I've seen it happen. Like I've been in there. Like, so I washroom Canada, restroom, same thing. But
It's the same.
I know some people American, some people like washroom. What is that? And I'm like,
Yeah,
It's
Chris
not a-
clearly
it's not a
didn't know what we were talking
situation.
about.
yeah. He's like, do you take a bath in there?
Yeah, in Ohio we call it a water closet. So I didn't know what the fuck. it was.
WC.
Down at Old School Wrestling, we call it a.
That's how Jack Parr left his show over a joke
Oh,
in
wow.
the water closet, and the initials were WC, and they were confusing it for, I think, Winston Churchill or something like that. And they said, no, it's a dirty joke. You can't say it. And he said, I'm walking off the show.
Oh man. Anyways, I just think it's a tradition that seems really like I'm not in the wrestling business. I don't know anything about it. But when
Well,
I'm
we
around,
can't do it
like that, I'm
now
like, huh?
anyway. So just adopt the new one, which is just
Well, the
you doing
coronavirus
this
change it. Will everyone be like
That's what I was gonna
fisting,
say.
air fisting, elbowing? Like what's the thing?
No, I'm doing this. I think this is very.
I'm gonna feel like
I'm
I'm.
gonna go with
that seems like an Indian wedding. I'm like far from across the hall. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's just guns for me. Finger guns. What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
I like
What's
finger guns. Finger guns I'm about.
right.
A little bit of-
So lastly, because I am the Wrestling Classic and a lot of my page is based off of nostalgia and old school stuff. The one moment and wrestler that made you a wrestling fan, like who would it be and what? And they can be completely separate. They don't have to be the same wrestling moment. But one wrestler that made you a wrestling fan and made you stick as a wrestling fan, and one moment that you remember seeing that and being like, oh, I like this thing. I like this. Whatever this is, I'm into it. What is it for you guys? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll hop in. Sorry, I was trying to be polite, but I'll I grew up around it, so I knew a lot of wrestlers as a young kid. So that's probably what made me love it. But Ric Flair was always my guy. But I have a flashbulb memory of my uncle showing me the tape of when Jerry Lawler slapped Andy Kaufman on Letterman. Because I didn't know that wrestling could be elsewhere. Like I thought wrestling was just in its own little bubble and it was just on TV for its own show. But seeing like this real moment, like when I was a kid, I thought that was real. I was like, oh my God, Andy Kaufman got slapped by a big husky wrestler. And when he explained, of course he ruined it for me. He was like, oh, no, it's a work and they're in on it and all that. And I was like, oh, and that's when I was like, oh, I have to do that.
for me,
Okay.
because RJ's will probably be involving Hollywood Squares or Mad King.
Yes, it'll be B. Arthur 100.
We'll leave him for last then. Okay.
For me, we never had, growing up, we lived in a bunch of small towns and we didn't have cable or anything. And then we go visit my grandmother and she had an aerial on her television and we got this one channel from Buffalo and I got to see they were airing world-class championship wrestling and I got to see the Von Erichs and the Freebirds and I was like, who are these? I've only ever seen like glimpses of Hulk Hogan at that point. And then when I got to see that, I was like, it's everywhere and everyone's different and it's all similar but different. And then when we moved to I want to say a town of about 3 grand, we had cable. And then we started getting wrestling. And I remember watching AWA at noon on our TSN. And I would see Nick Bockwinkel and I would see all these different. And I was like, oh, this is a really weird group of people. But then everyone's in. And then WWF at the time, everybody was in like sparkly gowns and had music and whatever. And then Bam Bam Bigelow showed up. And I was a fat kid. And I was like, I've never seen anybody like him. He's a tattooed head and he's dressed like a fireball and he flies around and he's amazing. And then I started getting an appreciation for a guy who looked like me that was doing this crazy stuff. And him and Bundy and Akeem, the one-man gang, and like all these bigger dudes, I was like, those are the guys I love because one's SWAT and other people go flying. And I was never that.
There's a lack of those guys these days, I feel like. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Yeah, we got Otis. Yeah.
But
yeah,
he
he
needs to start flying around now.
And then,
they need to get him on cables.
Oh yeah, he can do crazy stuff. Flying through the air. But then I remember, I think it was the Austin Brett match at Mania where they did the double turn was when I was fully aware of what they were doing. And I remember thinking, if they pull this off, this is going to be amazing. And then when it worked, I went, I understand all of this now. Yeah. It's not hard. I know how many times we've been at shows, just the 3 of us, where they're like, how are we going to, we can hear people going, how are we going to explain that you're mad at me and bad guys this? And one of us will pop over and go, oh, here, it's just these 2 things and you're done. You're fine. because we can see the story, we can see the reasons. You just need the reasons to make stuff believable.
No, that's 100% true. I agree with that. Mr. City.
Yeah, I lost my virginity to Mildred Burke. And I think it was that moment that I said, maybe there's something here.
Maybe. That's maybe.
That was it for me.
I don't know.
You're gonna make all these young fans.
I think I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to name this. I lost my virginity to Mildred Burke. That's gonna be the name of this episode.
You need a good headline. No, I think Bobby Heenan did it for me. Like just 100%. The longer I look back at it, I remember promos of him complaining about the officiating, and I remember doing that as a kid, thinking it's hilarious that this man is this upset in a suit. That was like, I want to be in this, and I'm still not sure what it is. He was a guy
you're
that
this upset in a vinyl diaper.
So it came true.
You just changed the suit to
pretty much,
a white vinyl diaper-esque trunks. Yeah,
they are diaper-esque, and thank you. I'm gonna have to change them now.
You're wrestling in your diaper, all right? Yeah, what are you guys up to now? Where can people find you? Like, what are the upcoming projects? How you guys? What are you guys doing in quarantine in your dungeons? Like, what's going on, guys? It's like we're restarting this all over again.
I'm still doing Aftermath, so we're doing it online with Sportsnet, and we're recording a show and releasing bits of it at a time on their social channels and whatnot. And then in the meantime, a lot of my improviser friends are using tools like this or Zoom or whatever to do improv online. And the more I see that, the more I think that's not good.
How does that work?
It doesn't. You don't have to worry about that. It doesn't work at all.
All right.
But other than that, I'm trying to just concentrating on staying healthy and safe. I'm not too worried about coming out of this with a new skill.
Have you tried any of these home workouts?
Oh, I do all sorts of home workouts. My wife and I get up. She gets up and does her thing at 8, and I do my thing in another room at the same time.
I've been trying to buy a bike for like 5 days, and I can't find one that's like a proper bike. I don't know why they don't sell bikes for normal. Those bougie ass BMW bikes that cost like $1,000, but who needs a brand name bike? I don't get it.
No, Giant. Look up Giant. You need 3 gears. Go with Giant.
They're too small or they're too big, and I'm like, I just need that.
I hear good things about Huffy. Hit up Huffy.
Huffy? What is Huffy?
It's a kid's bike.
They make bikes that look like motorcycles.
Oh,
they do.
Okay.
They're really heavy.
Where can people find you, Nug, on social media and everywhere else?
You can find me at Nug Nahrgang, both on Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to make a comment. I will not respond.
What should people slide in your DMs with?
Oh no. don't even worry about it.
All right, Chris, where can people find you? What are you up to today? How's life going?
Lots of different stuff, lots of plays, musicals, some indie films, stuff like that, until everything got shut down. And actually, I'm really excited because this weekend I had a film shoot all set up, not for this weekend, but it was supposed to be about 3 weeks ago. And I was so excited for RJ to see it because it's something that I think he's going to love. And I've rescheduled it, and it's now become a one-man show. And I'm shooting it this weekend, and I'm so excited to send RJ the link before I send it out to everyone. But and I'll send it to both of you because I think you'll think it's funny. But cool. At the Magnum CK on Twitter, and I don't. One thing I've realized, you talk about the home workouts, I don't miss the gym. Like I bought the last dumbbell at Walmart, and it's 35 pounds. One. Yeah. And I've been working out with a 35-pound dumbbell and running and doing push-ups, and I don't miss you people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just missed the gym because they gave me an excuse that if I didn't make it there or if it closed, I'm like, oh, I guess I don't have to work out. The gym's closed. I guess that's it. But if knowing that you can work at home is like, what excuse do you really have?
It's great.
Yeah. Where can they find you on social media, you said?
At the Magnum CK on Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter?
On Instagram, I have a different name. It's Cult of Personality, and I don't know why I changed it, but I just thought it was clever at the time, and so that's it. So
and then last before Lisa, make sure you guys go check out that documentary. It's Magnum Opus. It's on YouTube. It's about an hour and 50 minutes, but it's really, really good.
Long.
And I didn't find it too long, but I did. I think
Chris, you were the editor.
I feel like it would have felt too long if there wasn't, like I said, there was like two stories going on there. There was your story, then there was just trying to describe what professional wrestling supposed to be, which was a separate story, and the breaks between the two stories going back and forth kind of made it a lot easier to watch in one sitting.
Well, again, yeah, Magnum's Opus. It's too long. It's on YouTube. But I was talking to my therapist about it, and I was like, I'm trying to edit this thing, and it just feels like it's too long. And she's like, "Listen, it's your legacy project. You're getting all your stuff. Get your shit in, kid." And so it is what it is. But my favorite, again. RJ has another one of my favorite messages I received. It was on my birthday last week when the movie came out. And he messaged me and said, "I thought it was too long. Happy birthday."
I think the real answer is that, your therapist knows nothing about filmmaking. I think that's the real takeaway here. I do demand a supercut of just me and Nug. And then
just their description of wrestling, just separately.
Yes.
I have a clip. We're all trying to set up the equipment, and RJ's just kind of sitting there watching us, and all of a sudden he turns around and goes, "So are you guys getting a grade for this?"
Oh man, the subtle little jokes are good too. Like the descriptions of who everybody was and how they would change as you'd go through. Like I actually was looking forward to the little things like that. Like he went from famous person to heel, but not a jerk, and etc. Like that. Those little things were cool to watch out for too. It added to me watching it, and I planned to take notes, but I only took like 4. So
passive aggressive alpha male, I think was my favorite.
Yeah, one of them when he described himself, his ex.
Justin actually sent me that clip.
Yeah, I recorded it. I'm like, this guy's like actually pretty funny.
I was like, what have I been saying? Yeah.
RJ, man. First things first, I also want to thank you for the mazillion times you rocked the Wrestling Classic shirt. Personally, it's really dope. I appreciate that.
I enjoy it.
They are.
That was a big thing, and obviously Nugger, I appreciate you too, man. You rocked the hoodies and stuff, and you passed them out to Jimmy and everybody too, which was really cool for me because when those things sell, I get to chill. But I try to make them comfortable on purpose because like when you sent have you ever got a shirt from like WWE shop or somewhere else and it feels like cardboard, or you wash it once and it's just like stiff, and you're like, well, this is a nice shirt, but I'm never gonna be able to wear it again. I want people to like want to wear it to sleep and wear it to the gym and just wear it casually.
The low quality of wrestling merch is a whole other conversation, I think. Whole other Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Maybe a whole different Zoom casual conversation at the deli. RJ, where can people find you?
Just Google RJ City, and a lot of things will come up. And don't take that much time to go through it all. But follow what you like, and then don't follow what you don't like. But make sure to message me and tell me why.
Yeah, you can slide in his DMs. He will answer you. Can't say when or where.
Snarky, and you'll be confused.
I would not advise. If you go to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy a T-shirt from RJ, he will send you an email. And I bought a T-shirt recently because I'm like, I'm going to support my wrestling friends in this uncertain time. And I got an email from RJ or a text message from RJ that said, "You're not getting an email."
I might actually go buy a shirt when we get off this. I should have an RJ City shirt. What the hell?
I got one on right now.
Right there.
Oh, there you go. What's your favorite shirt on there, RJ? What's the best design on our?
I put up one today that should be up right now, and it's called RJ City's Stairway to Obscurity.
I dig it.
That's what you settled on. I love it.
Yeah.
I personally love. I have the David Arquette Ruined My Life shirt.
Yes, and it's so applicable to many people in many different ways.
It works. Yeah. I didn't get any confusion.
I like both those shirts, but I'm gonna buy one as soon as we get off this thing.
I think someone just bought it. Her name's Courtney. I'm not sure, but whatever.
Shout out to Courtney.
And since way
to go, Courtney. You made a good choice.
Good job, Courtney. But since you very poorly plugged yourself, I will say, guys, go check out his YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, it's got everything.
There's a ton of he's RJ City the wrestler, but there's just a ton of creative, funny ass content on there that once you start
something for everyone.
Yeah, and that's different. You do mini series, you'll do a theme and you ran with it, then you did the next thing, and I don't even now you're doing what was it? City After Dark.
City After Dark. Yeah, Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. I'm live streaming in a kimono with a cigar, and I'm talking. I'm reading from a book of dirty limericks and talking about debauchery.
Who doesn't want to watch that on a Wednesday night after watting some wrestling?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Come on, you got time on your hands. You could be watching RJ read some limericks.
Yeah. I agree though, RJ. If anything, disgruntled consistency really is something I applaud you for.
Thank you.
Last but not least, because a little confused on the whole situation. I was doing a Q&A thing on my story, and I was naming all the people that should be signed because I was like, damn, I support a bunch of independent wrestlers. And I felt like when I only named one, everyone else was gonna be like, wow, Justin didn't mention me and crap. But I mentioned you, and you guys both came at me saying, don't sign RJ. And I'm like, no, sign RJ. And I was like, no, don't sign RJ. Both you and Nug messaged me, DM me saying, no, nobody's signing. Yeah, how dare you? Why would you say sign RJ?
Yeah.
Why do we not want RJ to be signed?
It's a mistake for them. I've had the distinct privilege of turning down 2 contracts now. It's a mistake. They don't know what they're getting into. And also the offers are not very good. All I've asked for outside of a decent supportive contract is a Cobb salad. And no one has even met me halfway with a chef salad. So they got to step up their game a little if they want my brand of idiocy.
And that is why you are not signed, and when nobody's going to sign RJ. Okay?
That's right.
Here you go.
Unless you guys, if you want to sign RJ City, get him a Cobb salad. I think that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this completely random conversation.
Are we saying goodbye? Like, are we going like this?
I mean, I don't want to shake any of your hands, so sure.
Oh yeah.
You can combine it.
I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate you guys coming on. I hope to have you guys on again, maybe one day in the future, and maybe I'll be a little bit more prepared.
Why?
Maybe I said maybe, but this was a great time. I enjoyed that. I feel like this conversation is way more enjoyable to listen to than someone telling me about the city they were born in, and
how'd you get started in wrestling?
How'd you get started? And where'd you train? What was the school? How were your teachers? What was your favorite match? How'd you pick your entrance music? Did you like your entrance music? I don't know.
So answer all those right now, though, because we need to get
No, but I think this is a little bit more fun, and you guys can talk about things like, I don't know. I think we talked about weird books and stuff too. We talked about some stuff, but
I only brought that up to say that I'm from Virginia, and in Williamsburg, Virginia, that's where Fabio got hit in the face with a goose, by the way. So I led you down a wrong path, but that's what I wanted to get to end on.
We talked about Fabio on a podcast hosted by a guy that runs a wrestling page. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of you guys' quarantine, sitting at home and chilling. And if you guys have any other stuff to promote, shoot it my way. I'm down to promote it and share it. Nug knows that already, and RJ, you know that. But Chris, if you have anything you ever gotten to promote, just let me know. You can slide in my DMs with it, and I'll just people. It's gotten kind of bad with some people where they literally just send me a link and a picture, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with it? But just let me know, and hopefully we can talk to you guys again. We'll sign off now, and yeah, man. Keep doing the thing, and I don't even know how to end this because usually with my podcast I have a whole outro
RJ,
what I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
RJ, sing us a song, and then I'll drop a ooh yeah at the end, and we'll call it a wrap.
Make sure no one knows what it is.
I said I loved you, and that's forever, and this I promise from the heart. I couldn't love you any better. I love you just the way you are.
Uh-huh.
See? Isn't that
we're done.